So let's start with the John Deere. We're gonna go rip first. The goods and the bads. We've got probably close to 700 hours on this machine. It's I mean, it does the job. It's not bad, but we're in Texas, and when it hits 100-degree days, you might as well just park this thing. You know, it's got to stop and cool off so much. And it's the engine that's overheating, and I mean, it cuts all right. It's like riding in a tank, you know, like a dozer, versus the others that have suspension. This doesn't. It's the forestry package on this machine. This machine is, the visibility is not as good. I'm an older guy. I got some weight on me. When I get in that thing, I got to heave ho to get up out of there. Where there's a lot easier getting in and out of the machine as the other ones, even though their cabs are smaller. AC doesn't work worth a crap. I mean, it's almost non-existent when you're working. What have we had any problems with, Austin? We had hydraulic line came loose. First couple days we had it underneath the front step. It was just loose, it wasn't tightened.
I will say that the overall build quality on this machine is pretty good. You don't have a whole lot of stuff failing on it. Obviously they've had the time to make it to where it's going to be successful. You can run it through a bunch of stuff and not have a lot of issues. The biggest issue that we have is, like he said, in the summer, 100-degree weather, is the engine overheating. And we can take you back there and show you. I can tell you exactly why that's happening. Compared to the other two, the cooling is just not there. Now, we run these machines full hydraulics, high flow, all day long, 8 hours a day. So we are requiring a lot of power output from these machines at a constant rate of speed. So it is asking a lot, but we feel that it should be able to handle the job and do the job just like the ASV does, considering they're the same price. The ASV doesn't overheat even a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you're buying this. They sold this to us as a forestry package machine. It should be able to do that. You know, we ordered this thing online. Never do that again. That process was easy, but actually getting the machine was a different story. So it took well over a month to get the machine. Once they told us it was at a store, they started shipping it from store to store to store, which is like 30 miles apart. So I went to like 3 different stores before we finally said, hey, we'll just go pick it up at that store. It didn't make any sense. They ship it to a store, let it sit there a day or two, and then ship it to another store. Another thing is service. Our Yanmar and ASV dealer, they get it in, get it fixed, get it out. We called them. We were going to let them do the first service on this. We called them. They said, bring it up there, and it'll sit there for 10 days before they look at it. I don't know about y'all, but I can't have my stuff sit there for 10 days while they get around to look at it. We did the service ourselves, but if something goes wrong with this machine, you know, we know it's going to sit there 10 days. Maybe they'll look at it, maybe not. Let's go back here. So, one of the biggest things right now, backup camera don't work. This machine's got like 700 hours on it. It comes and goes. Once it warms up, it goes out.
Yeah, I mean, it'll work fine for maybe an hour or so. It'll start fuzzing out and it'll go completely black. You'll hit a bump, it'll come back on. And then you might have it on for an hour, you might be on for the rest of the day. But you never know with the camera. For whatever reason, it just keeps going in and out, and there's no real rhyme or reason to it or any kind of pattern.
So this machine, we don't like putting fuel here. That's kind of a pain. A lot of times we put it when the machine's on the trailer, when we go in the mornings. So Austin has to climb up on the machine anyway. I can put the fuel in the ASV and the Yanmar from the side, from the ground. But this one I have to get up there. In between here, which any of these machines, all the mulching, you got to clean the ACs, you got to clean the radiators constantly. But this really gets caked up real easy. This, you have to take this off to get this open. And you can see it's gone. That's the second one already. You just forget, you take it off, you set it down, and you're busy, you're trying to get to work, trying to make the best you can for the customer and not messing around with the machine. That's the last thing a customer wants to see, is you messing with the machine all day long. So we've already lost 2 of these. We got to order another one. The def system's here. So when you open this up, it hits right here. We've never crunched this or had, but I could see where somebody accidentally leave that open, and then you raise this, bring it down, whatever, and wind up smashing it. So I don't like that either.
One thing I will say, for me personally, being a shorter guy, I do like the placement of this, just for the simple fact that the ASV and the Yamyar, they're about this high. So whenever I've got a full jug of def, it's a lot easier for me to set it down on here and pour it in, as opposed to holding the whole jug up here to pour the def in. But again, that's something very minor that could come out in a newer model, but it's not so out there that I would rather have this machine over those.
Another thing is these weights. You see the weights on the back? There's 1 over here and 2 over there, 3 over there. Well, these get knocked off easy. I don't care who you are. If you're doing mulching, you're going to back into something. You're going to back into a tree, and it just snaps them right off. So I don't like that. I don't like, if you look right here in between the track, there's maybe 2 inches there. And this is the worst machine about getting stuff, cluttered up in there. It gets mud caked in there real bad, limbs and all that. So that's a pain. That's a pain to clean.
Inside these cages here, inside all this roll cage sticks just get jammed in there, and it's almost impossible to get them out. And you have to unbolt it, but it's pretty difficult to unbolt everything every time you try to clean it.
Yeah, and the visibility, you can't clean the glass. I do like the front door. The front door is pretty good. It's not as thick and solid as the ASV, but it is better than the Yanmar. Which the Yanmar and ASV are the same cab. You can take and put the ASV door on the Yanmar. As far as the inside of this, Dalton, show the camera. Look how dirty this is. Now, we know none of this equipment's clean and shiny. We use this. We don't get much time off, so we're just trying to do this to help people out, so they're buying the best machine for them. So we don't want to hear about machines being dirty. We know that. So, but if you look on the inside of this, there's dirt everywhere. This thing gets dirt in it like crazy. So it's not like the others where they, especially the ASV, gets a whole lot less dirt, but it's got another issue that we'll tell you about on it. The timer, the job timer on this, you set the job timer, it tells you 1.7 or whatever, where the ASV Yanmar, you set that and it tells you exactly it's 5 hours and 27 minutes or whatever. May not matter to some people it might. The other thing, you can pause the job timer on the ASV and the Yanmar. We like that also. The AC, I do not like in this. Even when we clean it out real good, it'll work for a little while, and then it's back to half working. Let's see, the cage up top, the top glass. If you can show that, Dalton, you can't see nothing out of that. When you're raising up the head, if you're trying to raise it up high to get in, up higher on a tree, you cannot see out of that top glass at all. It's usually covered with sticks and all kinds of other crap. As far as the head's not a bad head. It's not as good as the FAE. It eats a little better than the Lofness, don't you think, Austin?
Yeah, I believe so. And it's going to eat through the bigger trees a little bit faster than the Lofness does. Back dragging the Lofness does better. This head's just really good at eating through big trees. Again, like he said, the FAE head is like the best of both worlds between this head and the Lofness, because it back drags and everything like a dream.
It's got a door, so you can control a little bit on where you're throwing stuff. We run carbide teeth all the time, because we may be on a job from 1 to 4 or 5 days. So we go to too many different jobs to, you know, we ain't changing teeth out that much. Does a good job. You know, if you know how to use the machine and work and you're not scared of work, it'll get the job done. These skid plates, we've already had to fix them, weld them up. We got some ordered right now because they get ate up pretty fast. Can you think of anything else, Austin? Windshield wipers never broke on this machine. The windshield wiper arm, we've already broke the one on the Yanmar. Had to replace it. I like this guard. When we first got the machine, I dropped a big tree on it. I was in a really tight area with really tall trees, and a tree hit it and it hit the line right here, and I wound up having to change all these fittings out. But other than that, that's the only time. It's always protected it. We try to be a little more careful, but sometimes if you're trying to get done what the customer wants done, you know, you got to know the limitations of your equipment, but we try to make them happy. We ain't had an unhappy customer yet, so that's good.
Maintenance on the head?
We grease before you use it every time. We haven't had to do anything to this.
No, we had one issue.
We had a strap break.
We had a strap break.
One
we had
one time.
One issue that there's a relief valve in there where it was pumping hydraulic fluid out of there, and what it ended up being was actually not the head itself. It was the coupler. So it was flowing back into the head, which was causing it to back release
Do we
pressure.
have a? Let's see if we can open this up, because we found out that some other people have had this problem. It's a dealer that told us, wasn't it?
Yes, I looked it up, and then the dealer kind of confirmed it.
Okay, come over here, Dalton. So what was happening was we were using the machine, and all of a sudden it's starting to shoot hydraulic fluid everywhere. This pressure valve, it was shooting it out of that, draining down the system. You know, my initial thought was it's a bad valve. It wasn't a bad valve. We changed the couplers, and that fixed it. So if y'all run into that problem, that's what the dealer had told us also. We changed them ourselves. We didn't have them do it. We just bought the parts and did it, and it fixed it.
And that's one thing I'd like to walk through a little bit is ease of maintenance on this machine. So I've done all of the maintenance for this machine currently. These couplers right here, pretty difficult to change out. And it's not so much the difficulty level, but it does take time, because you can't just take this plate off here and get to them. What you have to do is you have to take down about 6 bolts inside the arm, some bolts down at the back, and take this all off in order to just get this out, just to change one coupler on here. So that is a little bit difficult. Grease fittings, we grease our machines constantly to make sure that they are working properly. You got a few on each side. They're really easy to access. Same thing with the ASV and the Yanmar. As far as changing hydraulic oil and engine oil, John Deere does make it pretty easy, I believe. Fuel filters and everything, pretty accessible. Right through here, you'll have your fuel filters. Down under here, there's a plate. And if you have one of these, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's got 4 bolts on it. You take that plate off, and you've got 2 lines that come out from underneath it. One is the engine oil, one is the hydraulic oil. That's how you drain the fluid out. So it's pretty easy and accessible to get to. Oil filter right in there as well. I can reach into it even with my short arms. I will say that one of these bolts, the nut that was welded on the inside, has already snapped. So we can't even really tighten it up or take it off.
That's on the pan on the bottom?
On the pan itself. So we have to put some pressure on it in order to be able to get that off now. And that's just a weak weld inside underneath the machine as well. So as far as maintenance goes, pretty simple. Now, like he was talking about, this is why the engine overheats. It gets clogged up, and these doors here are basically touching these radiators, which causes all that stuff to just sit up against the radiator and overheat.
These get clogged up too.
It does have a reverse fan on this machine, but it has to be, I believe, 210 degrees or less for that reverse fan to kick on. If the temperature is any higher than that, the reverse fan won't kick on, which causes it to just continue to rise the temperature and overheat.
All right, we were going over maintenance that Austin does on the machines. I don't do any of that. Austin does it. It's 100 degrees there in Texas right now, so our camera overheated, we had to get it an umbrella. So where were we at, Austin?
So what I was basically saying is the overheating portion. Again, you can see how close these doors are to the radiators. When you're mulching, it just clogs stuff up. Even when we're going through dirt, if you get a lot of dirt, it's going to clog that radiator up.
Yeah, this is going to be covered solid, especially cedar. Anybody they know cedar just cakes in there, and this will be completely covered.
Right. The Yanmar and the John Deere, from my understanding, have the exact same engine. But the Yanmar has better cooling capabilities as far as between the John Deere and the Yanmar. The air filters, exact same air filters. They can go in both John Deere and Yanmar. Those things will get clogged up within probably 2 hours.
And actually, the Yanmar is probably worse. It'll get clogged up faster than the John Deere one.
Yeah,
I guess it's the placement where it's at.
Placement, something like that. This one does. When the door shuts down, we can actually show you here. This is where the air filter goes into, where the air goes into the air filter. So it's pretty covered. Whereas the Yanmar is enclosed inside the engine bay. So there's really nothing coming from the outside. So any dirt, debris, anything that gets inside the engine bay goes straight into the air filter.
Another thing is the hood. You can see we've already backed it into something. It's got a kink over here, but even when it was new, sometimes you'd have to grab the sides and pull it in to get it to shut right. So that's never, it actually, since we banged it up, it shuts better than it ever has.
Yeah. And I would have to agree as far as air filters go. Yanmar and the John Deere, lunchtime, you got to clean those suckers out. If you're not, it's going to be overheating a little bit faster. The ASV it gets a lot in there, but it's a much better filtration system, so it doesn't clog up as quickly as the Yanmar or the John Deere does. That back gate up there, not sure why it's quite designed like that. It does come off pretty easily, but again, it's so open back there that it just collects sticks and debris. So your actual air that's getting pulled into the AC is in that compartment. So as soon as sticks and stuff get in there, it blocks all that from getting any air into the system.
All three machines have, where they pull air for the AC is back here in the back. You'd think they'd come up with something better, because that whole area in all three machines gets clogged up with debris constantly. And
I would actually say out of the three, this is probably better designed than the other two, because the other two comes down into a V, so it can get clogged up. It can get stuff in there really quickly. Whereas this is a little bit more flat. But again, none of the three are really that great of a design. All right, we're currently inside the John Deere 333G. As you can see, this lap bar is a full lap bar. I think the Yanmar's a little bit better. It doesn't really bother me too much because I'm such a small guy. We do like this pouch here. Here's the buttons over here. We've got your quick attach, AC controls. The John Deere does have this handle that I like. The Yanmar nor the ASV have. Let's go ahead and start it up. So it's no key, only code. And you can see enter the code right now. There's the screen that it has. Once you enter the code, you just hit the start button. So that's our temperature gauge right there. It actually does not work, and it hasn't worked since we picked up the machine. Your radio is over here. And then you've got all your controls, your speed controls here. So you've got your hand controls here. You can set them up a few different ways. We really like, they're pretty ergonomical in your hands. They feel good. This is a nice pouch here. As you can see, the camera is currently working, but we have an issue right now where it wants to go black. This is your menu. This is all you really get. So it's not the greatest thing in the world. You can see your temperature on this thing here, but then you can't see your hours or whatever. So if you look at your job timer, it just has a 7.8. So in order to go into that, you have to go to the menu and you have to go down to reset the job timer. You have to go to job timer, select, and reset timer. Then you have to go all the way back and you can see that your job is 0 now. It's not accurate whether that's up to you or not. You like the 0.0, you like the actual hours and minutes. That's the difference there. Buttons, pretty good quality. You have your reversing fan. You can manually engage it if you need to. Again, if your temperature is not below 210, that reversing fan doesn't seem to want to kick on. And that may just be a personal issue we have. It may be a different spec, but that's how we see. You can see this tray here and the leg room that we have in here. It's pretty decent. I like this little step here. It's nice when you're going backwards and forwards quite a bit. You can push up against it, keep yourself in. You can see how dirty it is in here, and this John Deere 333G just gets completely trashed with dirt, debris, and just a ton of stuff comes in here. This is actually the window that busted out, and again, it was right here. We put it in the lock position, and it just shattered. So that's something to look out for, and it could be trash getting in here, but again, that's in part due to the fact that it lets so much dirt and debris inside the machine. The door here, a pretty solid door. You got your wiper, windshield washer fluid, pretty standard for a door. It's done the job for sure. It's a pretty solid door, pretty thick. But yeah, that's the 333G.
So this bar here is my least favorite of Lofness, FAE, and this MH60D John Deere head. We get on a fence line, we want to be able to hook a tree, bend it over, and mulch it down. We can get pretty close on a fence line. This one though, it's so little, the little area here, to grab something, and I mean, you can do it, you know, we do it all the time, but if you have your pick, you're gonna pick a different machine. The setback, I guess it's fine. It's a little farther forward on the FAE, and the Lofness is way back. We don't like that part of that at all. The only thing that we've had a problem, we broke a strap, and that's after a year. So that's pretty good there.
And that was actually pretty recently that happened.
Last time we used it. If we're gonna be out mulching, like we bought another ASV, so we'll have 2 of them. This is basically a backup machine, or we might rent it. And if we rent it, we ain't renting it with the mulching head. We're just gonna rent it out with a bucket. Because it's a learning curve. Those of you who mulch, you understand. You can't just throw anybody one of these machines. You can turn them over easy. You know, you can drop stuff, destroy stuff. You gotta pay attention. I just don't think it's something to rent to a homeowner. You know, on a scale from 1 to 10 as a mulching machine, I'd give it a 5. What would you give it, Austin?
Yeah, I would say as far as the machine itself, as far as mulching goes, I would probably even go down to a 4. Just the comfort, the ride, the AC, just the overall operations. You seem like you're taking a lot of time to try to keep that machine cool down. Because like I said, as soon as you goes to overheat, you got to drive straight into the shade and sit there for, you know, anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes to let it cool down.
And blow off the air filters.
You gotta get out, blow off the air filters, blow off the radiators, just to get all that stuff unclogged.
And it's got enough room in the cab. It's got a little pocket underneath the seat there. That's one thing I like about this. It's got more leg room. It's got a little pocket that we put a little DeWalt cordless blower right there in that little pocket, and that way we can get out and blow it off instead of having to go all the way back to the truck and get a blower to blow all that stuff off of it.
Yeah, so I would say ride quality, 2, 3
yeah, 2
at most.
Easy 2. You ain't taking it off across the field with this thing. And those of you who mulch know, you know, you might enter the property here and have to drive, you know, good ways to what they want done. And it's like riding a dozer across the pasture at a high speed.
You get out of this at the end of the day and you feel like 10 guys just jumped you all day long. Whereas you get out of the machine of the ASV or the Yanmar and you still feel pretty decent. And back to what he's saying about this, even if this was just a straight out, even with how small it is, it would be better. But there's a curve in here which causes that tree just to slide right off of it. But as far as the head goes, I would say a good 7 or 8 on the head. I do like this head a lot, but it's still, if we were to go buy another one like we did with the ASV, we wouldn't buy this head again. It would have to be the FAE head. And
if you're using this mainly for other stuff and you're just going to mulch here and there, you know, it's not something you do every day, all day. It's a fine machine. I mean, that's fine. for us personally, I don't see spending the same exact money on this that I can buy an ASV RT135.
Yeah.
That just doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's a night and day difference, really.
Yeah.
So that's the John Deere 2023 333G. I know the 335P is out. We had thought about that, but once we had bought the ASV, I just don't see it. I don't see it happening. So, you know, I know dealer support's a big thing. Dealer support here ain't so great. Where you're at, that may be your best option, you know.
As far if you're willing to work on the machine yourself, they have the parts, and they can get the parts pretty quickly. So that is pretty nice, because where we get our parts and everything, there's a few different locations, so we have options. But as far as if
Service,
getting it serviced and getting it into the dealer to get it worked on, it's not financially feasible in the aspect of waiting as long as it's going to have. You have to wait for them to look at the machine and then fix it, whatever's wrong with it at that time.
What's the flow rate for this machine compared to the other one?
I believe it's 40 or 41.
Yes.
I think it's 41.
I think it's 41, and that's one
And it's
thing,
100,
it's non-adjustable.
105 horsepower or 100 horsepower.
Yeah.
We'll post stats for these machines.
Yep.
But
Fuel?
now that's another thing. This will hold 32 gallons, I believe. But it uses DEF.
I believe this is 30 gallons.
30?
The Yanmar is 34 gallons.
Okay.
Yeah.
30 gallons, but this thing it's got the smallest fuel tank and it uses the most amount of DEF. So every tank that you put in this, you've got to put a tank of DEF.
And you're using a tank of fuel about every 4 hours as far as the mulching goes. Now, if you weren't running hydraulics full high flow, you're going to get a longer day out of it. But as far as mulching is concerned, you're getting half a day and then you got to refill up.
Right. And that's different for the ASV and the Yanmar. They use less DEF and less fuel. And
as far as the flow rate, it's non-adjustable. So if you have to get this head adjusted for any reason, you have to go to the dealer to get it adjusted. ASV and the Yanmar, you can adjust the flow rate on the fly.
Yeah, we may be wrong about that, but we don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
I
don't see anything in the settings that needs to be able to do it.
As far as the screen's smaller. You're able to do less things.
Yeah, it's more like a digital screen, whereas the ASV and the Yanmar have an LCD or OLED display on it.
And we do like the code. You have to put in a code for all these machines. You can set them for code. Yanmar ASV, they have a key, but you have to have a code if you program it that way. This one's code only, no key. The only thing is like you get out of this machine and you need to get something out of your truck or whatever, and you come back, you got to punch the code in again. If it's at under 5 minutes or something.
Under 5 minutes. If you turn the machine off.
I think that can be adjusted in your settings, but you have to go in there each time, and adjust it if you want to change it. The ASV and the Yanmar, as soon as you turn it off, it pops up a screen and it gives you 4 options. And to shut it off now, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes. So if you're getting fuel, hit 30 minutes. You get your fuel, you get back in, and you don't have to punch in the code. Seems like something simple, but it is irritating when you sit down on the machine, you got to enter a code after you just got out of it.
I will say, as far as the cab is concerned, for me personally, even though I am smaller, I like the more space. I like the tray to be able to put chains or tools or straps or whatever we need to carry inside the machine. The controls are a little bit more ergonomically better for me. They're a little bit more comfortable in your hands.
I feel like they're built better.
Yeah, they're built a little better. The buttons, that you can tell they have a little bit better build quality to them. The seat though, horrible seat. I absolutely hate this seat.
Yeah.
It's got like a carpeted seat, which I don't really.
It seems like you sit down and back.
Yeah, and it's just really hard. It's as hard as a rock. If you go to use, for me, I can't really use the air ride quality of it because if I do, my feet come off the floor. So for me, that's kind of out of the picture. For my dad, he can use that air ride seat. But again, the seat itself is just super hard, whereas the ASV and the Yanmar, they have really cushioned seats and they're leather, which is a downside for me in the Yanmar personally, but I will get to that when we review the Yanmar.